welcome back. I hope you were blessed by this. Students, I am sure this is something you're going to want to keep forever. Moms and dads, parents, thank you so much for taking care of that, for doing that for us, for saying those things to your students. Legacy point number 3. It's time to plan. The question, what's the plan? What's your plan? As a child of the 80s, my favorite TV show was, of course, The A-Team. Thank you, at least a few of you. In every episode of The A-Team, there was always that moment where Hannibal, the leader of the A-Team, looked at his boys, looked at his soldiers and said, I love it when a plan comes together. I love it when a plan comes together. Couple of insights from our friend Hannibal. You've got to come together for there to be a plan. Students, parents, make sure you're coming together in conversation to form this plan. Also, this is a big tip, write it down. When you write down a plan, it becomes louder. It becomes more real. It becomes tangible. Come together, write it down, and start this planning process. Let me also give you the words of John Wooden, former basketball coach of the UCLA Bruins, arguably one of the greatest coaches in the world. And he says this, failing to plan is planning to fail. There's got to be a plan. We've got to have a plan. Also, I want to remind you that when the going gets tough, pray. Stop and pray together as a family. Pray for God's leading. Pray for God's direction. You didn't get the job you thought you should get. You didn't get into the college you thought you should get into. Stop and pray. Give it to Him who is able. Parents, I also want to just lovingly say again, don't force a plan. Don't force a plan. I also want you to think about what you're aiming at in your plan. What are your priorities as you're making a plan? Are you aiming for money? Are you aiming for fame? Are you aiming for success, whatever that means? What are you aiming for? And I would humbly suggest to you that all the things I just mentioned are not bad things to aim at if your general calling to follow Jesus is driving it. Deion Sanders, former football player and multi-millionaire, went broke and became hopeless, went through depression. And in his book describing his life and explaining his life, he says this, his money makes you more of what you already are. Money isn't bad. But if you're a follower of Jesus, if you're following that call in your life, then your money, your success, your wealth is just going to bless you and bless other people. What are you aiming at? I also want to give you this image. The quarterback, when he drops back for a forward pass, he doesn't aim where the receiver is. He aims where? Where the receiver is going to be. Where the receiver is going to be. There's forward thinking in the forward pass. You got to aim where the receiver is going to be, not where they are. In your aiming, in your goal setting for the future, aim forward. Aim with boldness. Aim with courage. Aim forward. I also would suggest to you that Christ, the quarterback, when he drops back and he's aiming at you, he's aiming where you're going to be in the future. His desire for you is to grow. His desire for you is to become the person that he has dreamed you to be. Start now with your plan. There's no better time than the present. Sophomores, where are my sophomores? Raise your hand. God bless sophomores. Why do we love sophomores? Because they're not freshmen. God bless our sophomores. Sophomores, a couple of thoughts for you. Start the conversations now. Start saying, Mom and Dad, I was thinking maybe I would be good at this. Mom and Dad, I was thinking that it'd be a lot of fun after high school to do that. Start having these conversations now so when you're in 12th grade, it's not a shock or a surprise. What dreams has God put on your heart? What hopes has God put on your heart? Start having those conversations now. Start doing some very basic research now. Start maybe researching what kind of jobs are out there, what kind of colleges are out there. But start the conversations, start the planning now as sophomores. Juniors, where are my juniors? Juniors. Juniors, time to start making some visits. If it's a college you're thinking about, go visit. If it's the military you're thinking about, go visit. If it's a career you're thinking about, go shadow a person that does that. But it's time to make this a little bit more real than just talk. Seniors, where are my seniors? God bless the seniors. Seniors, you're not going to be seniors much longer. Seniors, very soon you become freshmen. Or other things. Seniors, maybe make a few more visits. Seniors, start applying. Start filling out applications. Start getting even more specific and narrowing down your options. Seniors, now is the time to really start to decide. Knowing full well, you may change your mind, but start moving in a direction. When students come to me and ask me what to do, I lovingly tell them, do something. Move, go, grow, and pray along the way God's going to bless you with all of that. Let's do talk finances for a minute. Because again, as the research shows, 70% of high school graduates do go on to some kind of higher education. For those of you that haven't looked at the sticker price of higher education yet, it could cause you to faint. It is a number with lots of zeros at the end of it. I do want to suggest to you, though, that as followers of Jesus, in living in our first calling to follow Jesus, we live in a God economy. God somehow provides for things. As much as you possibly can, do not allow finances to stop a God-given dream. And trust me, as we learn from Jonah and others in Scripture, if God wants you there, He will get you there. He may vomit you there, but He will get you there. Student loans can be a scary thing for a lot of people. I have a lot of student loans. Moms and dads, how many of you took out student loans when you went to college? Yeah. I got to tell you about one of my student loans. I have plenty more student loans, but one of my student loans, a check came back from a student loan company. And I'm actually out of town. My wife calls me and tells me. I'm panicking, thinking I'm going to jail. My student loan check came back. What's going on? So I get the number. I call them. And the nice, lovely lady on the phone says, "Sir, your student loan is paid in full." I didn't know what to say. She goes, "Sir, are you okay? Sir, are you still there?" I said, "I had no idea that a student loan could eventually be paid off." This is truly a gift from God. And of course, she lovingly reminded me that I had several other loans that were not paid in full, but this one was paid in full. I've been out of college for about 15 years, and finally I have one of my student loans paid in full. Student loans is a part of life for the most part if you're going to go into higher education. But let me also tell you this about student loans. If you get the federally subsidized student loans, and something were to happen to you, a tragic accident or maybe even death, the government takes care of those loans and it doesn't burden your family. Student loans prove that you can do something with your life. Allow me also to boldly and lovingly say, credit card debt proves you're an idiot. If you're going to have indebtedness, student loans is one of those things that is worthwhile because it proves you can do something. Let me also say this, moms and dads, as part of your conversations, you need to give them a number. You need to give them an idea of how much money you can come up with. And please, please, please do not be ashamed of that number 0. That was my parents' number, and I learned a ton having to work myself to take out student loans. Do not be ashamed if you cannot give anything, but you need to have that conversation. And if, moms and dads, God has blessed you to a point where you can write a check and take care of everything, I'd like to be adopted by you. But have the conversation. Money talk isn't always fun, especially parents to kids, but have those conversations. I also want to say this, and I admitted my bias a second ago, but I also want to say this, is as a professor now in higher ed, I can tell, for the most part, the students were paying it themselves. There's a different attitude, a different work ethic. And not that it can't be if God has blessed your family with money, but again, don't be afraid to work hard or take out student loans if college is where you feel like God is sending you. Let me also say this in the finance department, good grades can end up paying off for themselves. Even a couple of percentage points here and there in your GPA can open up doors to other scholarships that will help pay for school. I know you think that your biology class does not matter. I know you think that calculus will never be used again outside of high school. But let me lovingly tell you, if it can save you a few $1,000s now, it's worth it. It's worth it. I also want to suggest this to you, especially if you're looking at college, but even if you're looking at any of those options we talked about after high school, whether it's military or career or mission project or travel the world, is you want to treat your life after high school plan as you would a college class or a part-time job. Take it very seriously. There is value in preparing for life after high school, for making that plan. If you really think college is in your future, take the SATs or the ACTs at least 3 times. Again, small increases, small percentage points better can mean thousands of dollars. I recommend you take them at least 3 times. Maybe, and I'll say this, maybe you don't go out Friday night, students, until you've studied for the SATs for half an hour or an hour. Maybe, if you're taking this seriously like another class or a job, maybe before you go out for the weekend, you have to fill out 1 scholarship application or 1 grant request or something that's going to help fund and pay for life after high school. I also want to encourage you to spend time following people who do what you think God has called you to do. Whatever that may be, whatever job, whatever occupation, find someone who does it, who you respect, who does it well, and follow them around as much as you can. One of the greatest teachers in life is experience. My brother-in-law thought he wanted to be a pharmacist, went to Purdue University for 2 years to be a pharmacist. Came home that summer, worked in a pharmacy. He no longer wanted to be a pharmacist. He now wants to be a film editor. Radically different switch in career. But when you get experience in something you think you may want to do, God may show you that is what you're called to do, or He may put a very different path in your life. Get some experience in those things. Parents, as parents, you do have the right to put limitations on all of this. I would encourage you to make sure it's part of the conversation. Ultimatums usually aren't wise to give to 18-year-olds, but include them as part of the conversation. Things like cost, things like distance away from home, things like career choice, they have to be part of the conversation. And as parents, you do have the right to limit, but make sure it's all part of the conversation. But again, I want to humbly remind you the power of a God-given dream. And you want to encourage God's dreams in your children as much as you possibly can. There are some worksheets in your packet called Finding the Right Path, Finding the Right Way. It's going to give you all kinds of ideas, all kinds of suggestions on what would be the right path, what would be the right plan for you as far as size, distance, cost, all kinds of things. There are also so many resources available to you. Your school guidance counselor has literally bookshelves full of resources for you to help you in this life after high school idea. There are all kinds of resources out there. I can literally go on forever about the different resources out there for you that are designed to help you wrestle with this plan. There are several amazing, great plans out there that you can hop on board with. Parents, again, as you think through the plan, as you think through the strategy of how to get to where your student dreams to be, remember this. Remember the characteristics that you and their other loved ones chose as so important you had to put them in a frame so they can keep it forever. Remember these things as you think through their plan. And I can't tell you enough, you got to remember that God's dreams for you are bigger than your dreams for you. God's dreams for you are bigger than your dreams for you. As a follower of Jesus, living with specific calling and purpose, developing this plan, God's dreams for you are bigger than your dreams for you. I need to tell you about John John. John John is the boy so nice we named him twice. When John John was a 10th grader, a sophomore, we took a group of students up to inner city LA. I was working in California at the time, up to inner city LA to do a mission project for a couple days. This was meant to be a very rough, difficult mission project because there were no showers. There was electricity in one room, but it was meant to really be an experience outside of one's comfort zone. We went to work and to work and to work. John John, for some reason, just fell in love with this idea. John John disappeared for 8 hours. It's not a good thing when a high school student disappears for 8 hours in inner city LA. We weren't really sure where John John was, but somebody said, oh, he's here somewhere, and I agreed. He was probably here somewhere. John John skipped snack. John John doesn't skip snack. John John skipped lunch. John John doesn't skip lunch. John John skipped afternoon snack. John John doesn't skip afternoon snack. John John finally shows up for dinner because he couldn't skip dinner. And we said, John, where have you been all this time? And he was in the sanctuary and the main building of this church facility mopping all by himself for 8 hours. Up and down every pew, back and forth underneath everything, the altar area, the narthex, absolutely everything was mopped single-handedly by John John. And John John couldn't shower that night. And John John didn't smell or look pretty, but John John had a big, beautiful smile on his face the rest of the trip. And as we're cleaning up to get ready to go home, as we're ending the mission experience, getting ready to head back to real life, John John comes to me, sweaty, dirty, stinky, smiling ear to ear, and he says, Jake, don't you think if we quit everything else and just did this, we could change the world? I didn't know how to respond. Because you pray and you coach and you encourage and you train and you hope they get to the point where they really believe that Jesus Christ is the hope of the world and that he lives inside of us and works through us and that he's going to use us to change the world. But when they finally articulate it just like that, I don't know what to say. Except for this. When you understand your calling as a follower of Jesus, when you wrestle with the question of who you were meant to be, and when you develop a plan, you're gonna change the world. Actually, God's gonna change the world. But he's gonna use you and me. Humbling, yet the most exciting thing in the world. One last family time. I need you to get in your family groups, your intimate family groups. We want you to think through plan. Get as specific as you're comfortable, but think through plan. After hearing all of this, purpose, who you were meant to be, plan, what are you thinking? What are you feeling as a family group? Where do you go from here as a family group? And also, we want you to get very specific about when you're going to have the next conversation. When, where, what's that next conversation going to look like? Make a commitment today to have that next conversation. If you don't commit today, odds are you may not have that next conversation anytime soon. Be bold, commit to that next conversation. We've got a couple of resources for you in your packet that I want to encourage you to get out and look at. One of them is called Looking Ahead, Life After High School, Talking Points and Checklists for High School Students and Their Parents. This is a fantastic resource that'll bless you in your intimate family group time, something you can work through right now as you prepare a plan. Another resource I want to refer you to is the Higher Education Finding the Right Fit. If you feel God is calling you to higher education, this is a fantastic checklist you can go through as a family to really think and work through what some of the things are to prepare for life after high school. Go ahead and go to your family groups now.